Well, hello everybody and welcome back to Mark's Allotment. It's been quite a while since I posted anything. Several reasons. As some of you may know, my wife's not been well, so been doing a lot of running around, etc. But glad to say she's on the mend and she's a lot perkier. Anyway, so I'm just gonna. What day is it today? Thursday, and it's a lovely sunny day, as you can see. I think it's at the 2nd or 3rd of May. Wind's a little bit chilly, but there we are. Right, I'll just give a quick look around the top plot and then bring you up to speed, hopefully. Anyway, turn the camera around. So, say my main crop onions now are starting to get well established now. It's been still a bit chilly, so they're not coming along as quick as I'd like, but there we are. Now, I don't know if I did say, I did these in plugs, so I put them into pots, as it were, first, got them established, and then I transplanted them out. So they're coming up, that's there, and that's my worm bucket in the middle. Broad beans now are starting to come well. Some brassicas. These are collies, they're starting to come. I've been putting a bit of nature's compost on them, otherwise known as urine. Anyway, watered down, of course. More broad beans, of course. Now in here, right, I'm going to be planting my beetroot, etc. in here, odds and sods basically. Another worm bin. Now, you can't see it yet, but from this blue marker onwards I've planted some asparagus, so I thought I'd give that a go. It's only a short row, but I think that's all I need. Yeah, more. I don't know, these are the overwintering onions, so they're coming. Some shallots and more shallots, garlic, etc. Fennel is starting to grow now. Ryegrass. Just going to leave that. Just as when it gets a seed head on it. I don't know if some of them have got seed heads on them, like this one. I'll let it go a bit longer. Once all these have set like that, I'll chop them down, or chop it all down, and well, don't know what I'll do with it, but the straw material, maybe I'll just lay it on the bed. I'll decide that anyway, some other time. Field beans, they seem to have recovered after the bad frost and snow that we had in the cold spell. Potatoes are starting to come up now. I've started. I'll leave it a little bit longer to earth up, but I've started earthing up. Right, obviously I've got a cat digging up my freshly cultivated soil there. I'll have to replace all that. Well, they're a damn nuisance down near the cats. More potatoes, which I've earthed up a bit more. I won't earth these up anymore now, that'll be it. Somebody's obviously left me some grass. Thank you very much. Saves me carrying it. My carrots are starting to come at long last. Excuse me. So yeah, I'll give it another week or so, and then I'll put some more in. Now then, in here are parsnips, but I don't know. I'm not sure if they're coming yet. There's something coming up there, but it doesn't look like parsnips, to be honest. Right. This is my potato experiment. Now I've got 2 pallet collars on this and one on that, just because I haven't got any more. But I don't know if you can see. I only planted these tubers in a shallow hole, so they're coming up now. And the idea is I'm going to use, this is hay, so I'm basically going to cover them with hay. I've got another bale of it down there. And then I'll see if that works. Who knows? So that's the top plot. Very quickly go down to the bottom one. So what I've done now, I've moved my compost containers from here up to the top, because this piece of ground up there is, because rhubarb in there. There's not a lot I can plant up there, so I thought I'd put the compost containers up there. Plus the chap who owns this, he's going to want access to the back of these fruit bushes, so rather than him trying to mess around my container, I thought I'd move them, make it a bit easier for him. Raspberries are starting to come nice. More ryegrass, which I'll let it go to seed properly, and then I'll collect the seed off that, and when the time comes, as long as I remember, I'll show you how I harvest the seed. The purple sprouting is going over now. Still a little bit left I can use, but it's going to flower, as you can see, and that'll be that. I've put some these are Brussels sprout plants. I need a few more. I've got some more in the house which I'll plant out at some point. So here we are. More potatoes there starting to show. I'll do a little bit more earthing up on those. Horseradish coming up. I'll leave him for this year and then I'll dig him up at the end. Now I've obviously started cutting down the field beans, and I put black plastic on here because this is where I'm going to have climbing beans like French or runner beans, something like that. So I put the black plastic on because down here it's very wet and it gets cold, so I thought black plastic to try and warm up the bed as much as possible, etc, etc. And as I say, the last day or two we had the stuff is coming really quickly now, so I'm going to be on my toes. What else have we got here? Right, so now I won't lie, to make my life a little bit easier, I've been spraying with some weed killer, especially the dandelions on the edges of the paths, etc, to try and get myself ahead a bit. I don't like using weed killers, as you know, within reason, but you know, sometimes you have to make a compromise and use these tools, as it were, to give yourself a bit of a head start. Otherwise I'd be doing things forever. But as now, what I've done, because I'm cutting the grass all the time for these guys on the allotment, I'm just putting a very light dressing on top, you know, to try and to keep the weeds down a bit, and also the grass will work its way in via the worms and it'll help feed the ground. And I put a little bit more around the broad beans, and that will deter a lot of the weeds. And of course, once the broad beans start coming up, they'll shade that area quite well. I may put a bit more down, but that'll be it then. Right, now then, so I've explained the potatoes in regards to the hay. Now, I've just collected, along with the hay, just collected now today all this compost from a local farm which does it as a business, but called Cowbridge Compost, and you can have as much as you like. They don't charge you for it, and what it is, they accept the waste from the councils and etc, and they turn it and they compost it down. Now I suppose they make their money by charging the council, or you know, sort of private gardeners if they I mean commercial gardeners if they're taking their waste there. Now it's a little bit coarse, so anyway, we'll see how it goes. But that doesn't matter. It's been worked, as it were, composted to start with, and frankly it doesn't really matter if it's a bit coarse. And I'm going to use this on top of my other potato experiment, so I can compare the hay with this version, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so that's about it for now. Right, I'm going to sign off while I start moving this material, and if I think of anything else in the meantime, I'll get back to you. Bye for now. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Mark's allotment. So I've just emptied the trailer of all that compost, and so I've got 2 bales of hay, so I'll just turn the camera around to show you what I've done. Okay, so let's say I've put some hay quite loose on this bed here. There's some, as I say, there's some potatoes, early potatoes, main crop potatoes, Desiree. They're coming up, so I've covered them over, and I've put just a light covering of grass cuttings on top, mainly to weigh it down a bit. So I'll just keep monitoring that, and when the potatoes push through a bit more, I'll put a bit more hay on, etc., and we'll see if this works. And then with the compost that I collected from Cowbridge Compost, now as you can probably see, it's still quite woody and full of big bits. Now, yeah, I could have sieved it, I suppose, but to be honest, now as long as I don't dig it in, it's only laying on the top, so as long as I don't dig it in, it should be alright. It shouldn't get rid of all the nitrogen. So I've sort of piled it up around the outside edges, as it were. Once the plants, you can see the plants coming through. Once they come through a bit more, I'll just move it in a bit to cover them over and build it up until it's right to the top. I've got plenty left, and so I've filled up that compost container there to the brim with that compost, and I've also got another pile here, about 1.5 wheelbarrows worth of compost left. So as I say, I'll just get a bucket and top up the containers that over there as the potatoes coming up. Now then, I'll say I don't want this to drag on too long. Now, I don't know if I said in previous films, but I was having extreme difficulty in getting hold of wood chips. Now I only got these because the council were chipping trees on the side of the roads, and I managed to take the trailer up and bring piles back. But you know, you don't know when and where they're gonna do it. I mean, it's worked, it's lovely, but I didn't have enough to finish. So what I'm thinking is I shall collect that compost from Cowbridge again, and I'll use that to cover over the top of this eventually, once I get it all cleaned away and etc, and that would probably be sufficient for that purpose. Now then, I thought I'd just demonstrate to you. Right, bear with me, I'm just going to switch off for a second. I'll be back with you in a short while. Okay, sorry about that. Right, what I thought I'd do is to demonstrate to those people who have never done sort of green manure crops or anything like that, you know, crops that fix nitrogen into the soil, etc., just to show you what it's all about, basically. So, as I say, these are field beans, and they're, you know, much like broad beans, except the seeds that I planted was, you know, half the size, basically. I think they're called fava beans, but you can eat them, and also you can eat the tops like spring greens, I suppose. Just steam them. Just make sure you don't get any black fly on them, because I don't suppose the black fly tastes very nice. Anyway, so I've just pulled this plant up. I don't know if you can see it. I'll bring it in a bit slow. Now, you can see all those white lumps around the base and around the roots. That is nitrogen. So the plant has converted the nitrogen out of the atmosphere and put it down into the roots on these lumps here. And of course, as soon as you cut the plant down and it goes over, eventually the nitrogen will dissolve back into the soil. So that's what it's all about, basically. And now then, if I was to chop this lot down and then either take this away and put it in the compost heap, which possibly what I'll do, or you can dig it in, but obviously I'm not going to be digging it in because I want the no dig method. But as I say, you can dig it in, or you can just chop it up a bit and leave it on the top and let nature do its own stuff. But whichever way you want to do it, what will happen eventually, that nitrogen will dissolve out into the soil and eventually get washed out, so you lose it all. So this is why we plant a ryegrass in after, in a normal case of events, and then this locks in the nitrogen, etc., and so on and so forth, and you just, that goes back into the ground, etc. But more than likely I will probably, once I've chopped these down, I will probably, not sure, put some sort of brassica down, and so the brassicas will then take advantage of all the nitrogen off the roots. And with these I'll just put in the compost heap. But as I say, yeah, you could pick these tops and eat those like like a cabbage, leaf green or something like that. So there we are. Right, anyway, I've talked enough, and when the next something else worth filming it comes up, I will do so, and bye for now.